Thank you to Lark for sponsoring a portion of this video.
Connection failed. Connection failed. Connection failed.
Why is this so difficult?
Sorry, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Setting up a smart home is never easy.
So I've shown it little bits, but this is my house. And I've tried for the past almost 2 months to make my home smart. I had a bunch of different stuff from different ecosystems. And it got to the point where my wife was trying to figure out how to do things and didn't know what app to go in to open things up. And quite frankly, I had to think about it before I did it too. So I thought it seemed like a good time to unify my whole house with one platform. And I tried to do it with HomeKit. And this is way more difficult than it should have been. And I'm still kind of doing daily tweaks and updates to get things to work. And I found a lot of ways around some of the HomeKit problems. So I wanted to show you guys the products that I use and how I did it. And I bought all of these products. There's not a single product that I put in my house in this video that is from anything sponsored. So I want to kind of share the good or the bad. Here are the products that I used and that I installed. If you want to jump to chapters to learn about each one, also all the links to them will be down below. But hopefully throughout this story, I can save you a lot of time because I spent way more hours than I want to admit, like deep in Reddit forums, trying to solve these issues. All right, so let's start with the front of the house. Prior to this, I was using a Ring doorbell, and I've got power by the doorbell, so I was able to pick a powered option. You see a theme here, but I went with the Aqara G4. There weren't like a ton of HomeKit options. There was the Logitech I was debated with, but then I worried they were gonna kill the whole thing. So the G4 is what I decided to go with. I liked it for a few reasons. It's got battery backup, which was nice if I ever should lose power. But also obviously I wanted everything inside of HomeKit for secure video. So I bought one, I installed it, and I never used a HomeKit compatible doorbell before. It's actually been pretty good. Out of all the products, this one has required the littlest amount of maintenance. The video feed has been consistent. I like that it's not using like my mechanical doorbell chime because that always sounded weird. I also really like that I could set it up to ring to the home pods in my house. And that brings us to the locks. So I had 2 older Yale locks on here. They weren't HomeKit compatible, but they broke and Yale couldn't solve it. This kind of really started all this too. I was like, okay, if I'm getting new locks, I should probably do the whole HomeKit thing. So these are also Aqara. These are the U100s. I couldn't go for the 200 because I don't have keyholes. I would have had to put like blanks on here and it would have looked really ugly. So the U100 works. My whole idea was I wanted my house to be keyless. These have key slots that come down. Open, there we go. So I wasn't jazzed about that, but I put like super glue in the locks so they wouldn't work with the key at all. You can see down here. So there's no chance of keys ever working. This one won't even go open. It's been really helpful to be able to have codes. I could set the codes up either in the Aqara app, but also because they're HomeKit, you could set codes up inside of HomeKit. So I could use phone key, I could use my watch, I could set codes up for a certain time. It works really well. So open these up. So both of those opened up. So kind of unlike the doorbells, there were a lot of options for locks. I didn't go Yale because I was really annoyed with them and they couldn't solve the issues I had with the previous locks. So I went with Aqara. And there's a couple things that I like about them. First, I can just touch the number pad and they lock automatically. But as you can see with both of these, there's issues that go on. I've kind of encountered these issues time and time again. So I like the features that a lot of these locks have where they'll auto lock after a period of time. You could set it inside of the app. For Aqara, these was in beta. And because I guess it's beta, it doesn't always work. I couldn't rely on that. And that was one of the big reasons that we wanted these locks, so that they would lock all the time. So I was able to go into HomeKit and set automations at every certain time period to have the doors lock automatically. That was really helpful, and that solved most of the problem. And also, if you're wondering why I have 2, when my oldest was little, it was kind of a runner. We don't want him to unlock the door and run out of the house. That's why we've got this one still installed. So they've worked, and with the HomeKit automation, it solved the problem. But what if I was leaving and forgot to lock a door, or somebody was here and forgot to lock a door? I went and put one of those guys up there. I wonder why there's 2. I'll get the top one's the Ring alarm. Second one is a Aqara door and window sensor. So now I set it, when I close the door, These lock automatically. As you saw, it was supposed to happen, but the top one didn't. So it takes about 10 seconds for the automation to take place. I wish there was a way I could set it to like after 3 minutes, then all the doors locked, but it's only binary, or it's on or off, which was a bit unfortunate. 80% of the time, these locks keep the HomeKit connection really well. The other part of the time, they don't. So now they're supposed to lock automatically. It's not working for some reason. So maybe once or twice a week, I gotta pull this part off the back. It's a plastic part, pull a battery out, put it back in, then it resyncs and tends to work really well. But now, as you can see, that's not auto-locking as it's supposed to. These are things that should just work, right? You set something and it just function how it's supposed to. I can rely on it most of the time, not 100%. So there it goes. Bottom one worked, top one didn't. I bet if I go to the app and look at it, it's gonna show me the top one has not connected. There it goes, all right. So not quite in sync. You saw it didn't work last time, working now. Now I see everything is working inside of the app how it's supposed to. They are good locks though, and I think out of the HomeKit world, if I didn't want to go Yale, they're probably the best ones out there. We have a couple cameras in the house as well, mostly downstairs. I went Aqara for these. There's a ton of other options for cameras, but again, I wanted to make sure HomeKit compatible. These have actually worked mostly well. Once or maybe twice a week, I'll log into the Home app and it'll show camera not connected, and then it'll come back. There's one camera, I don't know what it is with that particular one, that I've had to unplug and replug back in almost every 3 or 4 days. But again, that's something that shouldn't be an issue. These things should just work. HomeKit Secure Video is kind of my first time really using it. It's been surprisingly good. I like that you can kind of scrub through, it's constantly recording. I like that you can control who sees stuff, whether it's being recorded or streamed. All that's been pretty nice. And again, I kind of have cameras situated all over just to kind of keep an eye on things while we're gone. All right, do you expect like stuff in your house to be smart that's like sitting on a countertop or like mounted to a wall? You don't always expect things to be smart sitting in a cabinet. Meet probably my newest best friend. This is the Waterbottle Pure Viz 2. And it does a lot of cool things, but I've been pretty kind of vocal about having some sleep issues. And it was doctor recommended for me to drink more water. And the more water I drink, the better I tend to sleep. So I've been really conscious about the type of water that I've been drinking and how much of it that I'm drinking. What Lark has done here is one of the most incredible uses of tech. You don't generally think like water bottle and technology. So inside this bottle, it's got 2-stage water filtration and purification. Lark PureViz will use UV light that will eliminate some of the biocontaminants that might be floating around your water, designed to give you, let's say, a bad day, gross things like E. coli and salmonella. And then like as you drink water, there's a filter built into the straw. It's gonna remove PFAS or like forever chemicals from the water. They kind of build up. Also get rid of other contaminants like chlorine as well. Also does some things like keep the water cool for 24 hours. It's got double wall vacuum insulation built in. The bottle is also completely smart. Lark has their own app, but if you're in the Apple ecosystem, it integrates with Apple Health as well. And what it'll do is it'll keep track of how much you're drinking. It'll remind you when you need to drink more water, which for me has been really awesome to have. It'll kind of serve as a hydration coach to kind of, hey, you've been working out, or we notice you're sweating more, to remind you when it's time to drink more water. Every human being in the world needs water. And what Lark has done with the Bottle PureViz 2 is make that water that we all need healthier, and I think more gentle reminders that we need more of it. It's a really cool use of technology. This thing is with me in my bag all the time. If you want to check Lark out or pick one up for yourself, all the information you need will be down in the description. There's something else that I wanted to show you guys, and this took a lot of trial and error. I have 2 thermostats in the house, so we're downstairs right now. This is before Google announced the Gen 4 of the Nest thermostat that was Matter compatible. I bought 2 Ecobee thermostats. Down here is the premium, and I liked it for a few reasons. I liked that it had Siri connectivity. I thought that I was gonna like talk to it and control stuff. I thought it was a really like clean look. Then I started using it, and I feel like I was fighting against the eco side of that Ecobee more than I should have. I liked with my Nest that I could have schedules, right? I could have it air turn on at 7:15 and then get colder at 8:15 and then get to a temperature I want to keep it at 9:30. I saw it this did schedules. I was like, awesome, but it doesn't like really do schedules. You can do like comfort settings in there. And then I was like, okay, I need that schedule. I need to go on at a certain time, enter HomeKit. So then I had to set automations at certain times to have the thermostats go and start to work. And that seemed like it was working, but I noticed it was actually cooling significantly slower than it did when I had the Nest Gen 3. Had to go back into Reddit forums and see some settings in here where you need to hold the temperature. It was doing a lot of eco stuff that I didn't want from my thermostat. So it only took my kids waking up in the middle of the night hotter than usual for me to kind of bite the bullet and make a change. And of course, Google released the Gen 4. It was like 7 days after my return period expired for the Ecobee. And I put in a Nest Gen 4, which like looks-wise, looks absolutely incredible. I went for the silver one. I didn't see them in person, so I kind of just guessed. A little bit fingerprinty, but I mean, it's a thermostat, but it is still gorgeous. And this has solved most of my issues. So first, Matter compatible. If you don't know, Matter enables smart home stuff to talk to most other smart home stuff, and HomeKit things are Matter compatible. So this I can control inside of my home app. And this lets me do a schedule. This holds a temperature. This also has eco settings if you want to use, this is probably a controversial take. I don't want the eco settings on a thermostat. Like when I want it the temperature, I want it to stay at temperature. I don't want it to learn its way around a temperature. I can turn it on and off when I want to. This has solved all of my issues. I don't have to have automations inside of HomeKit for it to work. I could set the schedule inside of the Google Home app and it just worked. Plus, it makes me happy to walk by. I think it looks really cool. So I want to come back downstairs. Now this I didn't do as part of this like recent home automation kind of past 2 months. This one I did probably about a year ago and it's been awesome. I made it dark here for a reason. I made my switches smart in the house. My initial thought was to make the lights smart. I was like, that's dumb. Just let the switches control all the lights. I can use the word to wake her. I'm not gonna say it to do stuff on your phone, but good morning. So I come down in the morning, I want a cup of coffee, it turns the light on. So I can show you what I did. I ended up using Lutron to do it. It was relatively easy to install. The setup was really simple. The integration with HomeKit was great. And I have a bunch of these scenes for different things that trigger stuff. Lock all the doors, turn on lights over the TV room, turn on lights over the kitchen table. One of my favorites is I can say goodnight, turns off all the lights, but turns on the lights up the stairs when we go up there. It's really nice. The scenes and automation, actually out of everything I have had almost zero problems with the Lutron setup. It is always connected and it has always worked. So while the smart switches have been perfect, I'll show you something that has been the opposite of that. It's a Logitech Circle, and don't judge me on the install. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep it. That's why I didn't run the cord through the wall. I had an old Google camera out here, and again, trying to unify everything. I was like, oh, I'll give Logitech a shot. I needed one that could be weather resistant. I don't know if Akara had one. This works. I'd say 50% of the time I can log in and actually see what's going on with this camera. I have to pull the plug all the time to get it to work. No, Logitech's deciding whether or not they should exit the space. I'm gonna save them the effort. They should exit the space. I realized it was really bad after my return window. It worked for a little while and then kind of went haywire. So that's on me. Don't let it be on you. Look for another option for an outdoor camera. Don't buy a Logitech Circle. All right, so probably the biggest piece of this puzzle was my alarm. I use Ring for my alarm. I know they do have some HomeKit ones. I really like my Ring alarm. I didn't want to spend the money or the time to install a new alarm. It's by Amazon. This is clearly not a HomeKit compatible alarm, but I found a way to make it work. So you can do homebrew boxes that bring things that aren't meant to be HomeKit inside of HomeKit. I went and bought one that's already done. It's by a company called Hoobs. There's another one that exists called Starling. I tried that Starling box. It worked for like a few months and then stopped working completely. Hoobs, it's a funny name, has worked really well. There's two different boxes, one that'll bring stuff into HomeKit, and there's a lot of things that'll bring in, and one that'll bring things into Matter. I just have the HomeKit one because it's older, and it has worked surprisingly well. But the setup was not easy. when I set up my Ring alarm, all I really wanted inside of the app to be able to turn my alarm on or off. But because I have sensors everywhere, it had to bring everything into the app. I'm even just standing right here, I'm looking up there, I've got a glass break sensor, I have a motion sensor, I've got a door sensor on here. And it had to go through, when I went to the home app, I always had a window that was like add accessory, and it was always there and it bothered me. So I had to go through and add every single accessory into like a dummy room inside of HomeKit and then hide that room. And the only part that I wanted, this thing essentially, into HomeKit to turn the alarm on or off, I was able to make work. And it's a little hacky, and I figured out of everything I did, this was gonna be the biggest problem. Like, this was not going to work. And actually, aside from like the Lutron, this has probably worked the best. I'm shocked. The big question you probably have, and I asked it too, was why I didn't just bring in all the other stuff I had, cameras and stuff, into HomeKit using Hoops. I tried to do that. When it came to cameras, it was really unreliable. And when you use the Hoops box, a lot of the cameras couldn't bring in the HomeKit secure video. So just using it for the alarm worked well. There is like one bit of a weird thing I can show you when I turn it on here. So going to home, I can go to alarm. If I want to set it to home, like I'm going to sleep, so I'll go up to home, it jumps down to away. I got to set it back up to home to make sure I'm paying attention. But it does work, you can see it. You can turn it off though. See, jumped again. And now it's off. Nope. What? All right, you got to watch it. But it does work. No, it's still saying away. Off. Okay, we're off. It does work, but it jumps around a little bit. But bringing it to HomeKit let me also set automations. So now I set it to when I turn the alarm on, it locks all the doors in case one of the automations didn't work or something got triggered. It let me sort of do all that sort of HomeKit stuff that shouldn't be there out of the box. So future John here, I did make a change since this video. I switched my routers out and I put in Eero Wi-Fi 7 routers, and that did fix some of the issues that I've had. I still have some of the camera dropping, but they tend to connect on their own without me having to sort of unplug them and plug them back in. So your experience might change, but the routers here obviously make a real big difference, despite the speeds on the old ones being really fast down or up. So the one thing I haven't done yet is my garage. So MyQ controls the garage door. There's a Hoops plugin for MyQ, but I haven't gotten it to work perfectly. There is some HomeKit functionality, actual hardware you can install. That's probably my next bit, and that will kind of conclude everything and sort of have my entire home inside of one ecosystem. This whole process should have been really easy. Plug in a camera, add it to HomeKit, it just works. Install a lock, add it to HomeKit, it just works. Tweak the settings, install a thermostat, it does what it's supposed to do. But the issues that I've had and things kind of not working have been tricky, having to unplug things, pull out batteries. Fixing them hasn't been that difficult. It's just that I don't always know when there's a problem. If my locks aren't working and I'm away and have to let somebody in, defeats the whole purpose of having them be smart. So I can like 80%, I think, rely on everything here. I'm hoping with firmware updates and stuff that 80% can go to 90 and ultimately I can trust it like completely. I'm moderately happy with how everything turned out. It was, again, more work than it should have been. Hopefully if you guys are looking to bring things into HomeKit, or maybe you did it with Google or use another platform, I'm sure you had issues you had to troubleshoot as well. This is how we set it up here. And it's been fun to learn because I've been wanting to do a whole smart home for a while. Now that I've finally done it, hopefully you guys can avoid making some of the same mistakes.